11. And yes, I'm in conversation with Grant Afseth right now, trying to get him on the show sometime this week. He's covering the Dallas Wings as well. So he says he's doing some stuff for them tomorrow. So the hope is
Beckers.
That's right. The hope is to get him on the show sometime this week as we take you up to 2 p.m. And this is what Grant had to say about the situation. The Sacramento Kings, and this is on RG Media, RG.com, I believe. The Sacramento Kings have identified Cleveland Cavaliers point guard Darius Garland as a trade target as they seek to address the team's vacancy lead guard this offseason, multiple sources told RG. Sacramento is motivated to find a long-term solution at point guard after trading De'Aaron Fox in February, even though they didn't have to. I added that at the end. Grant didn't say that. However, Garland recently underwent toe surgery and faces a lengthy recovery timetable. It remains to be seen if he will be available to start the regular season, which is naturally a factor any potential trade suitor must weigh. If his recovery extends on the longer side, he could miss training camp, limiting his ability to build chemistry with new teammates and coaches. And I think that's really important. We'll get to Trae Young in a second here, but yeah, Darius Garland is somebody that we did have on our trade target. We've already kind of talked about him, but we're going to do it again right now. To me, look, he's in that 24 to 26 range that I love to talk about. He played 75 games at 20.6 points per game. He was an all-star, 2.9 rebounds per game, 6.7 assists per game, 47.2 field goal percentage, 40.1% from three-point range, from the free throw range. And my biggest issue, I'm looking here, Kyle, my biggest issue with Darius Garland is, look, this has been a pretty healthy season, so this is what we're dealing with. I'm just really big. Ever since a coach told me you can't make the club in the tub, I will always lean on players that I know will play. And after going through, and I got even more PTSD from Malik Monk not playing these last two postseasons. It ain't Malik's fault, and I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying I like dudes that I'm always going to err on the side of guys that are just on the court, right? That's just how I typically am. So you have Darius Garland here. Okay, he's a two-time All-Star. He entered the league in the 2019-2020 season. 59 games, 54 games, 68 games, 69 games, 57 games, and this past season, 75 games. Cool, but then unavailable during the playoffs, right, for a decent amount of the playoffs. So that's what worries me about Darius Garland. I really, really want to tell people who this tease is or who the head-to-head comparison is, because you might think I'm crazy until I read the stats, but I'm going to keep teasing it until we get to it a little bit later in the show. But to me, he is a high-priced version, and this is why I'm saying it with this comparison to this other player who will remain nameless for now, because he's just a high-priced version, and you can get this type of production to me somewhere else and maybe it's not the same, but I don't know that I want to pay this premium price for Darius Garland when I don't really know what Darius Garland is going to be.
Well, and then you add in the injury concern.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Because
here, real quick, Kyle, 39.4 is what he's owed this upcoming season, 39.4 million, then 42 million, and then 44.8 million. And I know we can keep doing this game, but Darius Garland, and I know big threes are going wherever, but Darius Garland, Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis, I don't think anybody's getting night sweats over that big three.
Well, and to the point about the injuries, right? If this is a 4 to 5 month recovery process, which is what Shams reported yesterday with the toe surgery, the great toe, the great toe mystery of Darius Garland. What did we talk about all last year? There was no continuity. There was no practice. They needed a training camp.
That's a great point.
If you now have the risk of him not being there for said training camp and you only have a 45-game window to make this work, right? Because if the Kings are in 12th or 13th place come trade deadline, they're probably going to expedite that process and start tearing it down. So I think I think Garland is going to ultimately remain on the Cavaliers, not because the Cavs don't want to trade him or don't want to get out of the second apron situation, but because the injury lowers his value. And therefore, unless someone's going to pay premium price for I guess we could say at this point, number 3 point guard who is not going to potentially be around for training camp, I think it might behoove the Cavs. And it's not like he's on an expiring deal either. I think it might behoove the Cavs to just hold on to him unless they get another Darius Garland type point guard in return.
So I'm looking here. So now let's move to Trae Young. And this is what Grant had to say about Trae Young. While Sacramento has interest in Garland, multiple sources told RG that the Atlanta Hawks have spoken with the Kings on a potential trade framework centered around Trae Young in recent weeks. However, those talks have since stalled. The outcome of Young's contract talks with the guard eligible for a 4-year, $229 million extension. Kyle, we got to get the annual on that one. I'm sure you can do it in your head. Is monitored closely by teams around the league. For teams seeking a shot creator and playmaker, he could be an attainable option to pursue. Atlanta appears to be conducting due diligence in the event a trade is necessary.
I love that I'm just your numbers monkey. And by the way, it's $57.2 million.
Mama! Whoa!
$57 million per year. Per year. That's an average. It'll be like 51 the first year, 54 the next year, 57 the next year, 60 the last year.
So it's a situation where, hey, trade whoever he gets traded to, he would expect to offer him that.
Not necessarily. I don't know if anyone is going to offer him that.
Including the Hawks.
Yes. Which is why if he gets traded, he either does a sign and trade with the Hawks, so he gets the full contract from someone else, I think, or he gets traded, and like the Luka situation, he's now only eligible for a max instead of a service time. You're allowed to re-sign with the team that you were just with.
Because this isn't a super max.
No, it's a max with bird rights. And the easiest way I can explain that is only the Hawks can offer him that because it's supposed to incentivize the Hawks to want to keep their player they've had before.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If he gets traded, I think it goes down to just a normal max, which is 30% of whatever the salary cap is going to be next year.
You cannot give Trae Young that money.
I'm not saying you can't give Trae Young that money.
I'm saying you cannot give Trae Young that money.
I'm saying you can't give Trae Young and Zach LaVine that money.
No. You can't do that.
You can give Trae Young $50 million. You can't give Trae Young and Zach LaVine $50 million.
I'm not. Yeah, that you can't do that. So let's just assume that he will not be getting that type of money. Okay.
It'll still be 45 plus million if they sign him to an extension. Now, maybe they don't sign him to an extension.
But again, relatively speaking, and keeping things palatable, right? I would say, yeah, whatever you just said, 45 is way more palatable than 57.
It'll be 45 to 50.
Just on principle. That's insanity.
I guess I could look up what the max deal was. Whatever Paul George signed for last summer would theoretically be what he could sign for.
Which everybody is saying that's a bad contract, but you would at least expect Trae Young to play more. Paul George, by the way, is getting
4-year, $212.
This is getting crazy. Yeah, look, here's the thing, and now I understand why. So initially I had said I would prefer Trae Young, but if you're dealing with the injuries of Darius Garland, but a cheaper price tag and a younger player versus the Trae Young situation where he's going to get paid more, he's going to expect to be paid more, and he's a little bit older.
Or you're potentially trading for him as a 1-year rental.
I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay with that based on what you give up. as well.
Right.
Right. He's got that player option after he's getting 45.9 right now or going into next season. Then he has a player option for 48.9, which he would opt into. I think hey, we're not going to extend you. You got 2 years. You got 2 years with him. I would assume he opts in.
It's, again, there's a lot that would have to play out, but it depends who has cap space come 2026, right? Because no one has cap space this summer except like Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more teams that are going to have cap space come the summer of 26, only because people were preparing for that to be the year the salary cap goes up.
When we return, let's look at the head-to-head between Darius Garland and Trae Young. Who would you rather have on the Kings?